You're listening to the Sass Says podcast. I'm your host, Christy Rocha, also known as Sass. I identify as a woman, a wife, and a mother. That should tell you a lot already. And over the last few years, I've learned the value of talk therapy. I have seen how my inner work not only enhances my own well-being, but also my marriage, my parenting, my relationships. And in fact, you wouldn't be hearing this right now if it weren't for the work I've done. My mission is to debunk the misconceptions and stigmas around what therapy is and who it's for. Let's normalize working on our mental health and seeking help when needed. We've all heard of self-care, self-help, and self-love, but do you often wonder how to actually make it all happen? I do. You'll hear strategy-based conversations with professionals, as well as inspiring and validating stories from women who are just like you and me. Think of this podcast as the weekly therapy sessions you didn't know you needed, with a dash of sass, a lot of vulnerability, and me, relentlessly asking, but how? Hello. All right, so my guest today is Shanna Nardone. Shanna is the founder of Maternal Grove, a community for maternal figures offering virtual support groups and one-on-one coaching. Shanna is also a wife and a mom of two who understands the pressures of wanting to be her best self for everyone while also living a life that makes her happy. She developed the formula for creating space and balance for herself that was so life-changing that she decided to focus her entire business on it. Shanna believes that we can stop choosing between being a quote-unquote good mother and doing things for ourselves. With the right coaching, you can have both. So on the show today, we discuss how she does it, how she helps maternal figures change their day-to-day lives to better support their wants and needs. We talk about how to make self-care a lifestyle and the power in questioning your thoughts. Shanna also shares her experience with therapy prompted by a life-changing moment, and I will offer a trigger warning here. Shanna experienced a suicide in her close-knit family, and this is, again, what prompted her to start therapy, and she shares all about that experience. So, as usual, stay tuned after for my final thoughts. Hey, Shanna. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm looking forward to getting to know you better and learn more about your business. Why don't we start there? Why don't you tell me a little bit about what Maternal Grove is all about?
Sure. So that's such a loaded question.
I know.
But it's exciting. It's been 2021. 2021 has been a huge change for me, and life coaching is something I've always wanted to pursue. And in the midst of 2020, I really needed more support. I needed people that I could go to and talk to. My husband and I would talk to our parents. They'd say, "Oh, we've been there." And we're like, No, you haven't been there. You don't understand what it's like working a corporate job for both of us while having both of our kids. My daughter was born in April 2020. So you can imagine at the height of everything, it was crazy. So I decided to start these virtual support groups for other maternal figures. And I always say maternal figure because I don't want to limit it to just moms. I don't want to limit it to just women. There's so much going on in society, and I want to honor that. And, if you're a gay dad, I want you to feel comfortable joining. If maternal resonates with you, then please join us. But it's a place where you can come and you can vent, and there's no return judgment. There's no returned advice. I mean, that's like the one thing that no maternal figure wants is to hear. You just want to vent and open up, and then all of a sudden you're like, when I was a parent in 1912, and you're like, I don't care.
Know. Yeah.
I don't want to hear it.
I know.
So I started this company to provide other maternal figures support that I really needed. And I was beta testing it with friends, and they all resonated with it. And I opened it up to life coaching. It's a passion of mine that I always wanted to pursue. And just to give you a really quick overview of the name, in a forest, there are maternal hub trees, and they're responsible for pushing their nutrients to other trees in their network. They know what trees are a part of their network, and their roots are all connected. And it's all this stuff you don't see underground.
It's amazing.
I love it. So I decided that Maternal Grove, we are a community where you can come, and in a life where you're constantly pushing your nutrients to others, this is where you can come and receive the nutrients you need and replenish yourself and nourish yourself.
Wow. Yeah. It sounds lovely. Um, so some of these virtual support groups, what's going on in there? What does that look like on a, kind of, I don't know, how is it daily, weekly, monthly? What's going on in there?
Yeah, so I have a subscription model. So basically, you sign up for the subscription, you get 2 sessions a month. And with our busy schedules, I mean, it doesn't matter what maternal figure, or who you are, your
I
life
know.
is hectic and it's busy. So I keep them very short. There's 30 minutes max. So I limit them to 5 people. And you come and we take the first few moments just to breathe.
Mm,
I do a guided meditation just to get us all in the same place. And it's basically a body scan. Normally, with body scans, you breathe into it, you try to relax your body. I don't want you to. I want you to be tense. I want you to be uncomfortable. I want you to think about all of the stuff that is bringing you down, that's weighing you down. Because when we're done with the meditation part, we get to the venting part.
mm,
And every maternal figure on the call just gets a few minutes to just share. And they have the floor and they can just be heard and just take their time. And then after that, you can't listen to too many people vent for too long because I don't
mm,
want it to weigh you down. We do a wrap up meditation where we just do some breath work. We just take a few moments to cleanse ourselves and to let go of everything we've heard on the phone and really just seal the session with filling everyone else up and ourselves with love and positivity and gratitude for joining. So they're quick, it's a small group of people and it's just meditation and venting and it feels so delicious.
yeah, yeah. I think generally, and I've heard this a bit on the show about breath work and breathing, that I know for me it almost seems too simple that I avoid doing it. And I'm trying to be better about it, but it just feels like, all right, I'm already breathing. I'm alive. I'm breathing. You know what I mean? It just feels like that can't possibly work. But I know
It's
it does because you and every single one of your colleagues are like, yeah, get to breathing, girl.
Well, there's a very big difference between breathing to sustain
Yes.
life. And that's what's so crazy is that something as simple as breathing can also have such a major impact. And I was talking to someone recently, and even if there's a moment where you feel yourself starting to build, like you can feel it coming
Hmm.
up, and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to just control myself for a moment.
Hmm.
When we exhale longer than we inhale, it sends relaxation information to our brain. So it's basically
Hmm.
just saying, like, you're good, everything's great. So if you take 3 deep breaths where your exhale is longer than your inhale, it's going to have immediate effects
Hmm.
on you, which
Hmm.
I love. And I use that tool constantly because it is so simple, like you said. And I mean, what tool could be better?
Right.
It's in that moment when you have screaming children or work or, whatever is going on in your sphere, you can
Yeah.
breathe. And
Yeah.
it's so simple and so effective.
It's immediately available and free.
Exactly.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So within these groups and the venting, I'm sure I know, but I'm curious what you say. Like, what can you give some examples of some of the things that women are really struggling with, or maternal figures are really coming to the table with? What's going on out there?
Sure. It's all across the board. I mean, it could be women that are pregnant.
Mm,
I've had some women that come on and they're just dealing with, oh my gosh, I have one child. I have another child that's about to be born, and I'm just freaking out. And there are things that
yeah.
they may not feel comfortable saying to other people because they're either, they feel guilty for feeling the way that they do, or, whatever it is, or their spouse, they don't want to be fixed. So, those sorts of conversations. We've had other people come on that are dealing with surrogate situations and just want to talk about what's going on.
Mm,
We've had other people that come on that are just overwhelmed and just want a place to let it go and say all the things that they don't necessarily want to say out loud. And then we have other situations where people come on and they say, I really thought I was going to talk about X, but then all of a sudden, this is coming up for me, and it
mm,
just spills into a different area that they weren't even expecting. So it really runs the gamut. But I think when you have the space to actually hear yourself,
mm,
it's so healing for some people because they didn't realize, I so often people start crying. It's a
yeah.
very vulnerable space to be in sometimes for some people because what starts coming up is things they weren't anticipating. They
Yeah.
really thought it was just going to be about work stress or just the regular stressors in their life, but all of a sudden this really deep topic comes up because they feel they're in a space with other people who get them. And
Mm-hmm.
they're not trying to fix them. They're not trying to help them. They're just trying to be there to support them. And it's a really beautiful space. And it is. It's really interesting to see what comes up for people. But yeah, just a lot of stress, a lot of overwhelm, a lot of identity shifting that
Mm.
happens when we become a parent, and even just that transition to becoming a parent to then my kid's going to school, I'm not the primary caregiver anymore. And there's so many different identity shifts that happen. So yeah, it really runs the gamut, but it's always an interesting conversation.
Yeah. So I will ask you a bit about your personal story, but in relation to that, thinking like generally speaking, more broadly, why do you think there's such a need for this space? How did we get here? How did we get to this point that we need virtual support groups for women to vent? And I don't mean to downplay that. I think it's very necessary and absolutely vital to our happiness and survival. But what do you think? What is that? Where does that come from?
There are a million factors, I'm sure, that play into it. And I don't want to downplay any of the factors, but my belief is that shifts have happened so quickly in life. So women just got the right to vote in 1920. I mean, that's my grandma was born in 1920. To where we are now, it hasn't been that long. It's
Mm-hmm.
only a couple generations of information that has transpired. And I truly believe that we're catching up still. And I think therapy, I think coaching, I think a place to vent is for everyone at any stage in our life. I so believe it is so powerful and so important. But specifically with these groups, when you become a maternal figure, oftentimes there's this societal pressure of being selfless.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, paired with being selfless, we start to assume that we have to give up everything of ourselves in the process, that our sole purpose is to be everything for our families, for our children, for our partners. We take on so much more than we often have to, I think. In
Yeah.
some situations, they are different, and you do have to take on more, but you don't have to stop living because you become a maternal figure. And I think oftentimes, because so many are living in this space where they feel they have had to put themselves on the back burner because of their needing to be selfless for their families, because they are the maternal figure, and that's what society tells us we have to be. They need this place to come and be like, this is crazy,
Right.
because it is.
Yeah.
It's not healthy to live that way. I don't believe living that sort of life, which is what I lived for so long.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good. It
Yeah.
doesn't bring, all of us want to be the best maternal figure we can be. We want to be the best for our children, the best for ourselves, the best for our families.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard to do that when we put all of the pressure on ourselves.
Yeah.
So this is a space where we can just come together, hear what other people are doing and saying, and learn from each other too. It's not just about the venting, but the learning, because there's so much learning to be had. But yeah, I think it's just so much of the pressure, life's pressure, societal, our internal pressures. It's
Yeah.
it's a lot. We need a space to talk about it.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. I think there's pressure. I also think that we've when I say we, I mean society, or at least the US, I don't know, has sort of glamorized the superpowers of moms and women and maternal figures to really I'm going to say it, to really benefit men. We've glamorized it to a point that I can remember just getting married and I used to go to this workout studio in Boston, in the Boston area, and one of the instructors, she was wonderful. This is nothing to her specifically. This is more about my perception of her. Was that she was fit, busy. She had like the Explorer with like 14 car seats in it. She had the Apple Watch. She was kicking butt. One day I showed up and she was like pregnant, and I'm like, how are you doing all of this pregnant? Because you've clearly been pregnant if you're just showing. Like, she would do like 4 workouts a day, and then she would have pictures of the kids and the crafts and the pumpkin cart, and I would just, and I was, but now I look at it and see it differently. Then, before kids, young, naive, I was like, yep, that's going to be me. That's what I want. And again, this has nothing to do with her personally. I don't know her personally. She was a fitness instructor, but it was just that, like, on the go, getting every single thing done for every person, and not realizing, being so naive to think that I could do all of that and that it wouldn't have any ramifications on my mental health and my sanity and my well-being, really, you know? Um, and like I said, I think that that's glamorized so that a particular set of people benefit from us thinking that's fabulous. It's messed up and I don't like it.
No, I agree. And what you idolized about that woman and her life was a facade.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what's going on
I have no idea. Yeah.
behind
She
in
could
her
she could have had
brain.
3 nannies doing all that, and she, who
Exactly.
knows? Yeah.
Yeah, she could have been extremely happy and living her best life, or she could have been extremely miserable and just showing you
Yeah.
what she wants you to see. Because again, there is this societal pressure to be the quote unquote super mom. And I hate that word.
Yeah.
I used to do the same thing. I used to look at myself and people would say, like, oh my gosh, you can do it all. You can work full time. I'm like, I would type at my computer while breastfeeding my son. And I prided myself in it because sometimes you just have to do what you have to do, and it's
Right.
great. And I wanted to breastfeed. Like, I wanted to do certain things and have them a part of my life. And I wanted the full-time corporate job. But there were so many other decisions I made that I didn't realize how they impacted me. And I wasn't expecting to talk about the women's rights movement because
I know.
I'm not an expert in
I
it.
don't normally
But
either, but
yeah, but it's something I've been thinking so much about recently because they fought so hard for women's rights and got us the right to vote in 1920, which took them so long to even get, that I think, again, I wasn't there, I wasn't a part of it,
right.
but to me, they got us that first step. We got our foot in the door. We got to start working and do all of these amazing things that we can now do. But I think in the process, the mentality was, all right, we're just going to get started, and then you all down the road will have to get everything else you need. And
Right.
I think, oftentimes the male partner does work full time, a
Right.
corporate job, let's just say for this example. And now there's a maternal figure that's working full time. Well, who's going to do the cleaning?
Right.
Who's going to do the cooking? Because if neither of you are there for majority of the time, those roles are now
Mm-hmm.
not filled. And instead of us empowering ourselves to bring on the help and feel good about outsourcing, we criticize ourselves for not being able to do it all. And it's just not possible. It's
Yeah.
not possible.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot there. I think that I'm reminded of a conversation I had on the show with Michelle Carter, and she talks specifically and works specifically on advocating for um, working moms. And she was saying kind of something similar. She was like, think about our moms, our grandmothers, and she was relating it to bringing our authentic selves to work and really using our skill sets as maternal figures as a positive rather than hiding it at work.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, you know what? Our moms, our grandmothers couldn't do that. Like, we owe it to them now to do that and to be authentic and be proud of being a mom and say, hey, I'm a mom. These are my skills. You're going to want to hire me. And so it's reminding me of that. It's also was reminding me of Dr. Veronica Eo. She said that her little ones now will say, oh, I love mommy because she does everything. And, she makes a point of saying, I love you too, but mommy doesn't do everything,
Yes.
because that's part of it too, is, thinking about our moms, our grandmothers, and then thinking about our daughters and sons and theys and whoever is coming. Like, we can't just keep talking about it. We have to be actively participating in the change. Yeah.
100% agree. And I think that's where my voice has really started to blossom over the past few weeks, even just with social media,
Mm,
because I'm really trying to make that point now that it is up to us to choose how we want to live. And if you can do it all and you feel great about it,
right,
more power to you.
exactly. Right,
But for the everyday person,
right.
it's not, there aren't enough hours in a day. And, I used to say, this is one of the biggest things I learned in therapy is that I wanted to give 100% to myself. I wanted to give 100% to my job. I wanted to give 100% to my family, 100% to my spouse.
Hmm.
And my therapist stopped me and was like, well, no wonder you're so tired all the time. And I was like,
Right,
what do you mean? She's like, you're giving, is it 400 or 500%?
right,
Like, it's not humanly possible. You're
right.
striving, you're trying to meet these expectations that just aren't realistic. And I've been thinking about that a lot recently. And that's so much of what my voice is now. I don't want to be the person that's looking for other moms to validate how I feel, because I
Yeah.
don't feel good when I'm trying to achieve that supermom status. I feel my best when I'm asking my husband for support or telling him what I need. My husband, I look at everything as a partnership. And when I rely on him like a partner,
Mm,
it makes my life easier. It's just, it doesn't have to fall all on me. So I've really started to look at my maternal journey as playing to my strengths. And like you said, how do you incorporate that into your job? Or if you're a stay-at-home mom, how do you make that last and be so impactful in your day-to-day that you feel great?
hmm. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard. Is there any ways that you can think of that someone listening and going, yeah, like how, what's something they could just do tomorrow to start to facilitate some change or just, yeah, they're hearing this and going, yeah, I'm the one trying to give 500% in everything. What's something tangible that they could maybe start with right away if they needed to?
So one of the biggest philosophies I've learned recently, and this is not to get, too up in the clouds, it's very straightforward. It's not our circumstances that create our suffering. It's our thoughts about them.
Mm,
So you could be a very busy person, just like majority of the world. But
mm-hmm.
if you believe that, oh, I can't put myself forward or I don't have time for this, start asking yourself, is that true?
Mm,
It's starting to challenge our own beliefs,
mm-hmm.
because as we start catching these thoughts that are limiting us
Mm-hmm.
from our biggest potential, that is such a tangible thing you can do in your life. And part of it, like another step to it, is just choose to start prioritizing yourself. I started doing this challenge on social media the other day where, people are always like, oh, self-care, let me laugh about it. But it's
Yeah.
not funny. Self-care is something that we should be doing every day, all day. And a lot of people's responses are that they don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
But again, ask yourself, is that true? Because
Right.
I can guarantee at the end of the day, when you put your children to bed, let's say, you may spend the next 30 minutes beating yourself up about what you did that day wrong,
Mm-hmm.
how you couldn't do certain things, or you may be just going on Instagram to try to kill some time. But ultimately, you can find those moments where you're like, oh, I have a moment, and choose to do something for yourself, even if it's small. So every day for 365 days, I'm choosing
Wow.
just to show people that
Right.
it's the smallest thing. It's taking a minute to just succumb to the crazy and lay on the floor and breathe.
Right.
That's a choice to do for your self care, to just be okay in that moment and exist. So, yes, question your thoughts, prioritize yourself. You are
Mm-hmm.
worthy. We're
Yeah.
all worthy. A happy maternal figure is a happy family.
Yeah.
So, what can you do to start bringing yourself happiness and feel like your authentic self, like you were saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that question, your thoughts, because, I think especially when, you say like the busyness and the chaos, it's hard to catch your breath. It's hard to feel like you're ever getting ahead of anything. It's like you're just in the weeds all the time, and the weeds becomes the status quo because I'll speak for myself, I think, you know what, I'm just even too busy to think. I'm too busy to, like, even start to unpack what I would do for self care or, why something is the way it is. Yeah, it gets muddy. I don't know, it just gets, yeah. too
It
much.
does.
Yeah,
And then normally, I can speak from my own experience. I used to then go to Instagram or other moms and be
totally.
like, oh my God, this is what it is. Isn't it the same for you?
Yeah,
And everyone's response is yes,
yeah,
because that is, we all are falling under this pressure of what we are supposed to be doing and how we are supposed to be living. And it goes back to that feeling of selfless and that all of the responsibility falls on me. And I'll just share this little anecdote during COVID. So in the height of everything that's going on, I'm back to work now after my maternity leave. My daughter's, 3, 4 months old. I guess she was probably like 4 or 5 at that point. My little 3-year-old boy was, or 2 years at the time, was watching TV in the other room. And I felt so guilty because I was the mom that always said, I don't want my kids to watch a lot of TV and yada, yada, yada.
hmm,
And I was sitting in the kitchen and my husband came over and he's like, what is wrong? Because he could see how defeated I looked and he could hear it in my voice. And I have this walk around the house that I get when he knows I'm upset or, unhappy. And he's like,
right.
what is going on? And I said, I just feel like I'm failing.
Yeah,
I'm breastfeeding while I'm on conference calls and struggling to focus. And my son's now in the other room watching TV. And his immediate reaction was, I hear you, but why are you wearing all this guilt?
yeah,
Why are you choosing to wear all of this? I'm here too. I'm not happy about this. He's like, we're in a situation that's out of our control. And in that conversation, I'm truncating it quite a bit, but he really stopped me. And in that moment, I was like, you're right. Why
hmm,
am I bearing all of the guilt of this entire a pandemic?
hmm,
I can't control a pandemic. Why am I wearing the guilt of that? It's just, why am I choosing to do that to myself and torture myself with this? It is what it is. This is the circumstance. Now I can choose how to think about it. And from that moment on, it was such a pivotal moment in our entire COVID situation and how I live now. It changed the way I approach a lot of stuff because I didn't realize I was doing it. And I think a lot of other people don't realize that we're doing it because, again, we keep normalizing it with other people and
hmm,
getting it affirmed for us that, yeah, it's just the way it is.
right.
It doesn't have to be in every situation.
Yeah. I think COVID exposed a lot of that. I mean, because it just, obviously, it was such a heightened situation, so extreme. I mean, and my kids are, I think, are probably the exact same age as yours. My son was born February
Mm.
2020, and I had a 2-year old at the time, and
Yeah.
it was next level. It was
Yeah.
next level. And the thing that I struggle with now personally, and I'm assuming you hear some of this, is that you know, I definitely I'm in a much better spot than I was, but that level of burnout, it doesn't just go away overnight. You don't just have a good night's sleep and wake up and feel like great. And I honestly had a situation recently where I was away from my kids for more days than I had ever been, and you know, it was like the first night I came back, someone threw a fit, the other one threw something in the toilet, and I was just like, "Oh my god!" And we're back. Like, holy crap! I'm supposed to feel rested and rejuvenated, and it just is. It's not something that goes away or gets better overnight, and I think that the extreme level of fatigue and mental exhaustion that we all went through, it I don't know. I think it still has its legs. It still has its effects, and um, I don't. I'm personally, like I said, in a better spot, but it's almost like a little bit, this is strong, but it almost feels a little bit like PTSD. It's like if something feels like too chaotic, I'm like automatically triggered a lot faster than I would have been having not gone through a lockdown with 2 kids under 3 years old.
Yeah, I definitely hear you. And what I'm hearing too is that when you had those few days away, it sounds like you set your expectation that it was going to just create a new
Yeah.
moving forward for you. You were going to come back, you'd be rested, you'd be rejuvenated, things would be good and different. And then as soon as you walked in the door and all of the normal life started to pop back, you immediately had that reaction of,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, I thought this was supposed to be cured for my
I know.
self care. Tell
Yeah.
me where I'm wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think people look at self-care as this magic bullet sometimes of, oh,
Mm,
if I could get a massage, life would be great. Probably not.
yeah.
I mean, it will feel good in that moment. And that's why self-care is not something that we should be doing on a sporadic basis and
Mm,
just like, oh, I'm going to plan this for me for 3 months from now or treat myself. It's how do you implement self-care into your everyday to feel like you are prioritizing yourself and your needs so you can live that authentic life for you every day.
yeah.
Because that I find when you live your authentic life, you find this level of space and balance for yourself because you're respecting yourself.
Mm,
You're allowing yourself to live. But when we put ourselves in the back burner and then say, all right, I'm going to throw myself a bone and just do this one thing,
yeah.
it's not as effective. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel as delicious as it could.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you personally prefer to self care and how do you make it happen?
Yeah, it's a great question. It changes for me in small ways, but the most important things to me are eating healthy
Mm,
and working out. And I'm not, a crazy, I have to have everything, a certain way when it comes to food. I don't have to, work out every day. I'm not that kind of person. I go by my energy. If I'm feeling really into it, if I'm feeling really up for it, or a run or a weight workout, then I do it. I try to follow what my body needs. It could also look like me taking a nap. My family has been sick recently and just not feeling guilty about getting in bed and under the covers. So,
mm,
I set those pillars in my everyday where I wake up, I do my routine, but without fail, there is healthy food that I'm cooking because that's important to me. That is a priority for myself. I
mm,
don't try to just buy things quickly or, I try to take the time, invest that in our family because to me, eating healthy is just, it's non negotiable. So even if my daughter is sitting in her high chair screaming at me for 45 minutes while I cook, it's worth it because at the end of the day, we're all getting a healthy dinner that to me, that's number one. And then with exercise, just to give you one example, I don't love to run. But as a mother now, I don't always have the time because schedules can be crazy certain days. So I have chosen to start running. I have a double jogging stroller. I didn't get it for a very, very long time,
mm-hmm.
but I ended up getting a jogging stroller. And if I really feel like I need to run, or work out, I throw the kids in the stroller. They get to go outside. I talk to them. I may throw on a podcast in one ear and,
Mm-hmm.
talk to them out of the other ear. But it's what I needed and I needed to move. So self-care to me is all about prioritizing my needs every day, not to the point where it impacts my family, but if I know working out is going to give me the best return, then I do it. So yeah, so I have pillars that I have set in my life, and I don't let those move um, as I need them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing in terms of the how, and I push that because I think that self care has unfortunately, with the best of intentions, has gotten really, I don't know, it's overplayed a little, and it's like, oh, do this, do that, do this, do that, and it's like, okay, but great, how? And so
Yeah.
what I'm hearing from you is that you incorporate your kids in it when you need to. Are you like a 5 a.m.er? Do you get up if you
Nope.
don't? No, okay.
Nope.
Good.
I never
I'm so
have been. I
relieved.
never will be. No,
I'm so relieved.
I'm gonna sleep as long as my
Okay.
kids will sleep. I mean,
Okay.
I was blessed with two very good sleepers. So
Mm,
yeah, we wake up at like 7:45 in the
nice.
mornings.
Okay, good.
And
Okay. I'm
but I
relieved.
will say, a lot of people say that they can't enjoy their cup of coffee. This has been like a big self-care topic that's come
Yeah.
up, and it's funny you say that self-care has been misused because I 100% agree. I think it's because we have gotten to a point where we are so selfless in our day-to-day activities that we had
Mm,
to coin this term where it's like self-care, you need self-care. And I,
yeah.
I don't think it's again about like the one time we go for a massage or the one time we work out. It's a lifestyle. How do you prioritize your needs every day? That's self-care.
Mm,
That's taking care of yourself. It's
yeah.
what you need. What is your priority to feel like your best self? And even if it's not exactly the way you would have done it, I would never have been jogging pre-kid but that's me now, and I feel great about it because even if I
You're
don't
a
have
runner now.
here I am. So, you have to tweak things, and that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So getting back the coaching that you do, and you've mentioned your own experience with therapy. What is the difference between working with you as a coach and seeing a therapist? Like what happens in the one-on-one coaching?
That's a really great question. I think the best analogy I can use to explain the difference between therapy and coaching is that if you injure yourself, let's say you break your arm, you have to go through rehab most likely, or if you have surgery, you have to go through rehab. That is a physical therapist you are going to hire to get you back to feeling good, to feeling stable, to being at a point where you don't have pain. Life coaching is the same as then hiring that physical trainer. So your arm is healed, it's ready to go. Now you're going to hire a personal trainer
Mm.
and you are going to get back to your max potential in life. So, with therapy, I think really focusing on the past, healing wounds, doing what you need to do
Mm.
to get to a baseline that feels really good for you. Coaching doesn't do that. Coaching is more of focusing on the future. You may have to look at the past a little bit, but for the most part, it's identifying what does your best life look like and how do we get you there? Because
Okay.
oftentimes we're talking about our thoughts. Our thoughts stop us from doing certain things, even when we don't realize it.
Mm-hmm.
So, life coaching with me looks like sitting down, and oftentimes people come with a specific topic that they want to grow upon. So if it's just general motherhood and the struggles of motherhood, it's a lot of prioritizing ourselves. What does that look like? Who are you?
Mm.
I talk to so many, even just on the playground. You talk to these other maternal figures and they're like, I don't even know who I am anymore.
Yeah.
That's a whole process to go through. We're still in there, and I don't want people to get to a point of being an empty nester and then all of a sudden having to rediscover who they are.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
long time
Yeah.
to feel like you've lost yourself.
Yeah.
So life coaching is just a great opportunity to sit down and talk and figure out what does life look like for you now? What could it look like for you? And getting there, because it feels so good.
Yeah. Is there an accountability component to that? Are you like giving goals and tasks and saying, okay, like next week, let's see how far you've gotten? Does that play a role?
Goals can. I'm a very goal oriented person. I'm very type A in a lot of what I do and how I do things. So I love goals, but I also am trying to challenge my thinking now about goals because I think they can also be limiting. If we're just shooting for one thing, I think sometimes it can limit other possibilities that are around. So, yes, their accountability is huge in coaching because if I have someone that comes in and they say, I want to do this, and we identify what the next step is for them, I want to know in my next session, did they accomplish it or did they not? And if they didn't, why didn't they? And if they did, do they want to continue doing that or do they want to move it to the next level? Or, how are we working towards that larger goal of whatever the challenge was that they brought to me? So, yes. And, I would say too that when you choose to change, it's such a great partnership to have with a client.
Mm.
Not that we're broken, but there's always potential that we can reach. And if I have someone coming to me week over week or every other week and they're just still in the same place, that may be a point where I'm like, you know what? I've so enjoyed our time together, but I really recommend therapy. That
Mm.
there may be a reason, a deeper reason why people aren't making progress. So,
Mm.
yeah, goals and accountability can be a great point to even determine like, should we still be on a life coaching track or is therapy something we need to go back to?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's very interesting because I do find that they can be, even just in my personal experience, they're very closely related. What you have these thoughts, even like we were talking about before, as a young teenager, 20 something, glamorizing what I thought motherhood would be like, then going back and analyzing, well, were what roles did the maternal figures in my life have, and what was my perception of them at the time, and how did that different, and it goes on and on.
Yep.
And we just keep going back and back and back. Yeah.
We're sponges. We soak up everything,
Yeah.
especially at little ages. We see everything, we hear everything.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I'll just tell you a really quick anecdote. The other day I was cooking. I love to cook. It It's not because I'm a woman. It's not like it's not my husband doesn't like cooking. He just doesn't enjoy it. So
Yeah.
we decided early on in our marriage he would do certain things and I would do certain things. And my son was sitting near me and he was helping me cook and just a part of the process. And I remember I had the thought of like, oh my God, is my son learning that women cook? And I just like had that moment of panic
I
of
know.
this is what he's seeing. So
I
it's
know.
like even in those conversations with him, it's I've gotten him involved. I
Yeah.
don't have to again put that pressure on myself. He's involved. He loves to cook. So again, here's this little boy who's cooking and that's okay. So yeah, it's something that pops up constantly of,
Yeah.
these thoughts of what are we showing our children? What are we teaching them? And the best teacher is to be the happiest and, best of ourselves so we can show them what that looks like.
Yeah. I mean, and I was thinking you articulated it nicely, but what I was thinking as you were talking was there's a huge difference between your kids watching a mom or a dad cook out of enjoyment rather than out of obligation. Someone standing at the stove moving a frying pan around is a lot different than, oh, what spices do I want to use? And this and that.
Yep.
It's a different experience. So he's seeing joy, really, and I think that that's more important, like you said. Um,
Yep.
so take me back to you know, I'm curious how you actually made the shift from corporate full time to doing this. Like what was the catalyst? Was it a slow, thought process, or did you just one day get up and go, I'm done? Like how did you actually do that?
So my life coaching journey has been an interesting one from day one. So I'm a very spiritual person. My family loves mediums and
Oh, I do
five.
too.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
good.
I love it. Yeah, I actually have an appointment with one next week. I haven't gone to see one in years and I'm so 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 excited.
I'm so jealous. I was just looking at a calendar yesterday thinking I need to schedule something. Oh, I love it. Okay, so perfect. So you're a great person to tell this to. I I went to a psychic medium. It's one of our family favorites. My mom's really into this. My brothers have gotten into it. And it was 5 years ago when my husband and I first moved to California. And I was on the phone with her and we were talking about other stuff. And then out of the blue, she goes, what do you do for a living?
Hmm.
And I was working in this employee engagement role in this corporation. And I was describing it to her a little bit. She's like, yeah, that's not what you're meant to be. She's like, I don't know what you're meant to be, but I will tell you right now what you're doing is not it. And I was like, well, you can't leave me with that cliffhanger. Come
Right,
on.
I know.
So we talked for a little bit more. I couldn't even tell you what we talked about because none of it was all of that eye opening.
Mm.
So fast forward, I go to bed that night. I wake up in the morning, again, pre kid, at 7 a.m., which was so early for me, wide eyed. And I look at my husband. I go, Steve, I know what I meant to be in life. And he's like, I'm sorry, what? 7 a.m.? And I'm like, I'm meant to be a life coach. He's like,
Wow.
what did you dream about last night? I'm like, I have no idea. I have no recollection. We didn't talk about it yesterday. I didn't dream about anything that I recalled, when I woke up.
Mm-hmm.
But there has been this nagging pull that
Mm.
I want to be a life coach for so many years now. And I started researching it, here and there over the past few years. But every time I would find it, because I didn't have a clear idea what it was,
Mm.
I would find these life coaching schools and they all seemed so fluffy. I
Yeah.
didn't understand what it even was. I'm like, but what do they do?
Mm-hmm.
So I started to immerse myself more and more into it, started learning more about it. I had taken on life coaching with someone and was starting to get more into it. And then, of course, stars aligned again. And I was talking to one of my friends in my community. And I was like, do you know any life coaching? She's in the therapy world. It's like, do you know life coaching? She goes, oh, my friend actually just completed this course literally the week before. Let me put you in touch with her. So I get on the phone, we start talking, and I fell in love.
Mm.
In that moment, everything she said was exactly what I wanted it to be because I've always been the person that wants to help people.
Yeah.
In corporations, I didn't care as much about the client work as I did helping my employees, mentoring them, being there for them. And when I found life coaching, it just, my eyes opened and I was so excited. I signed up for the program. And with corporate, I had this transition that I was looking to do, but when I want to do something, it's very hard for me not to jump in with both feet. I got very, very excited. And honestly, it started impacting my job a little bit because
Mm,
COVID changed me. I kept feeling when I came back to work, like my job changed. And I started to realize, my husband and I and my stepmother-in-law, actually, we had a really good conversation. She's like, well, did the job change or did you change?
mm,
And in that moment, I realized I had changed so much.
yeah.
My priorities had shifted. Me spending all of this time worrying and focusing on my job just wasn't serving me. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't serving my family. It was seeping into all aspects of my life. I was super negative, and I just decided that this was the time,
Mm-hmm.
And with COVID, I started that little venting group just to try it and see what it felt like. And it was really, really working. People
Mm-hmm.
were having such huge revelations and moments and the community around it. I just decided to put all my eggs in the basket, and I went for it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's great. Because I think thankfully that seems to be one positive outcome of all of this is that when if you're thinking about making a change,
Yep.
it could have been the push, and it seems like that was the case for you, which is so great. And I know from what you've shared with me in the questions that I send out that getting to that life coach point didn't come without doing that past work in therapy.
Yeah.
What did that experience look like for you? How did you get into therapy and what did you get out of it?
Yeah. So that I have always been a very anxious person. I have always had chest pains, for as long as I can remember. I don't think as a child, but as I started getting more into the working world, I started noticing that I would freak out before I would send an email. I would start having chest pains, out of anxiety. And I kept telling people in my life, I think I have anxiety. And they would say, no, you don't. Like,
Mm,
we don't have anxiety.
yeah.
But I knew deep down that I did.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least I thought I did. So I ended up, I was so focused on my career. I wouldn't allow myself to really start that journey financially. I would give myself all these excuses, like I don't want to spend the money. I don't have the time to really do it, even though I knew there was this nagging urge. So I started researching it. And then again, things would happen, it would get away from me. And then we lost my step brother in law to suicide. And it
Oh,
was an
wow.
extremely tragic situation.
Oh, my
It
goodness.
actually impacted my husband and I on a very personal and very connected way. Um, so I decided in that moment it was a no brainer. I was like, if I'm going to make it through
Mm-hmm.
my life in a stable and healthy way, I need to start therapy. And that
Mm-hmm.
was the moment where it felt so real to me to start. And the journey from me looking into therapy to this happening, it's only a few years. It wasn't like it was this huge span of time. So that was really the catalyst for me to start doing
Mm-hmm.
it. And in that journey, I learned so much. I mean, you can't downplay the amount and how impactful. And what started out as grief therapy, which, took time, and I would continue to go to her on a weekly basis. And it was so, so helpful. It slowly got to the point where she was like, so you seem like you're doing okay with everything. Like you've moved back into your house, you're doing good with stuff. How are you, how are you thinking this relationship can grow, if at all? And I said, I brought up my anxiety stuff and I started saying, I would love to start talking about these sorts of things. And we started working on it. And in those therapy sessions, I found my breath, which I had never known could be a tool. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize that in all of those times of me sitting at my desk and panicking, my breath was so shallow. The chest pains, all of that stuff was so related
Mm-hmm.
that finding my breath, and we started doing a lot of meditations together,
Mm-hmm.
changed my life. She
Yeah.
gave me tools that changed my life for the better. I cannot thank her enough. I mean, I got very lucky because I found the best therapist I could on my first try. And that doesn't happen for people. It
Yeah.
can be a journey it's like you have to date therapists sometimes to
Yeah.
see who you really connect with.
Mm-hmm.
I was so lucky. Again, the stars just aligned for me, and it was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I I think, just to start with the anxiety piece, even that initial reaction of those people, of those around you saying, "No, you don't." I mean, really, we all experience anxiety. Some of us just experience it on varying
Yes.
degrees of intensity, and there can be phases or times in life or what have you. But I always find that funny when people are like, "No,
Hmm.
you don't have that," or "I don't have that." It's like, actually, we all do experience it.
But you don't want to be labeled
Right.
as an anxious person, and
Yeah.
that's like, to your point, that's what I was starting to experience from those around me. Like, don't label yourself.
Right.
We're not those kinds of people. But you're
Right.
right, everyone experiences it. Mine was just an unhealthy level of it.
Right. Right. And grief therapy is interesting to me. Um I had a similar, the circumstances of your brother-in-law's passing were much different, but my sister-in-law passed away from cancer at a young age, and it was all tied into being a new mom, and
Hmm.
the whole overwhelm. And I don't know what your experience is like, and I would ask you to elaborate on it, but I found the sessions where we did talk about her death were some of the most freeing. To be able to talk about someone's passing from my own mouth without any fear of judgment or without any concern for the person's feeling that I'm talking to is, I don't know where else you could get that, really, because anyone that or anyone connected to the person who passed, you're going to think about their feelings as you're talking, and you might hold things back that are really deep in there that you don't realize. And it was it was really one of the most healing experiences to really take a full session and go from A to Z of the whole experience.
Yep. No, you hit the nail on the head. Having a third party listener and third party perspective is so important, whether it be in therapy, whether it be in coaching. Anytime you talk to other people that that you're friends with, or, like you said, your family, you're either gonna caveat what you say and not really say everything,
Yeah.
or the response you're gonna get is going to be a caveated response
Yeah.
because they don't want to hurt your feelings, or they're just trying to support you, when in reality, with his death for me, I needed to talk about it with people that didn't know certain dynamics. I needed to
Mm.
talk to people and just say, because, I was kind of an outsider. I was an in-law.
Yeah.
I wasn't raised with these kids. So to have the feelings I was feeling, even I didn't feel were appropriate sometimes.
Yeah.
When in reality, like, it's okay to have the feelings I was having, like, I have the right to how
Yeah.
I feel and what I think about a situation. So being able to say that, like you said, without the fear of judgment or their feelings, was so helpful. I love talking about it because that is therapy for me.
Yeah.
I will talk to anyone about it, especially something as, quote unquote taboo as suicide. People
Right.
don't want to say it. People don't want to talk about it. So for me, that was also very freeing.
Yeah. And I have the same experience. Was my husband's brother's wife, who who was with my brother-in-law since they were children. So it was like the whole family grew up with her around,
Yep.
had known her since she was a young girl. And I knew her for, I don't know, a couple of 10 years maybe, which was a lot, but not a lot compared to the rest of the family. And it was exactly that. It was like, I just feel a little bit out of place,
Yep.
a little bit inappropriate, but I'm still feeling like,
Yep.
it's uncomfortable. Yeah, and it's got to go somewhere. Yeah.
Yep, it does. And better out than in.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I'm going to put you on the spot here a minute, but just in your personal experience with it, I'm not asking you to speak for anyone who's had experience with suicide, but what do you wish more people knew? What do you wish more people understood about losing someone to suicide?
That's really a good question. I just had a friend call me the other day who had a suicide within her network, and it was kind of distant. It wasn't immediate family, but it was a couple steps removed. And she called and she was, she opened up and then apologized
Mm,
immediately and was like, "Oh my God, I shouldn't have talked to you about this." And my reaction was, why wouldn't you?
yeah.
It's like I have been through a very tragic situation, but that's okay. That's
Mm,
a part of my story. And talking about it for me feels really good. Just because you bring up suicide, I know there's this fear too of like, oh, I don't want to mention suicide because if I think you're suicidal, then are you going to commit suicide? And I think what's so important with suicide, this is the point I wanted to make, that suicide hits differently. Death is death. It's all hard. It all brings up feelings. But suicide is different in the way that I think, regardless of how you know the person, you feel you should have done something. You think you should have done something. You think you should have been the one to save them. You think that you should have done XYZ to prevent it. But you can't own someone else's decisions. In our situation, we had brought him into our home. We did everything in our power to try to support him to the best way we knew how at the time, which we didn't know much and we were learning as we were going. But ultimately, someone else's decisions are their own. And it's not our fault. There's nothing we, could have done differently. So, I think suicide is just a unique topic in itself because, yes, death is death, but there is the thoughts we go through. And you can speak to this because I don't want to speak for you. With something like cancer, there's nothing you could have done to control that. There's nothing in your power that you can be as supportive as possible. But in this
yeah.
situation,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
choice is
Yeah.
a choice,
Yeah. Yes, and thank you for sharing all of that. I know I kind of put you on the spot, but I think it's important to talk about. Um, and I would ask you, would you say that that was one of the, if not the biggest takeaway from now that you've had some space from it and you've processed with therapy and that it didn't fall on you? Yeah.
for sure. Yes. Um, 100%. I mean, I knew going into this situation that if I didn't open my home, if I didn't do certain things, I could have not have lived with that grief. Like if something did happen to him, because there was an attempt and then, other decisions were made that he came to live with us. And um, if we didn't do that, I would have never been able to live with myself. So while both weren't great situations, we chose the one that we knew put us in a situation for success in the future, regardless of the outcome. And my husband and I did something that felt good to us, that we knew we were doing the best we could and we were offering everything that we could. So 100%, that was something that took a while to get to. And still, you have those moments where, he comes to mind and you're like, God, why couldn't I just do this? Or, whatever it is. But through therapy, I've
Yeah.
learned
Yeah,
to let those thoughts go.
it is different, and I want to reiterate that you're speaking only from your experience, and I'm speaking only from mine. We're not speaking for
Yeah.
anyone else, and every situation is different, and I can absolutely see what you mean. I mean, my I kind of went into an intense what can I do kind of like fix it mode afterwards. I was like I
Yeah.
I don't I would almost call it manic. Like it was just like every weekend I'm saying to my husband like let's go see the kids, let's go see your brother. What are we going to do? Let's do this, let's
Yeah.
do that. And I actually think between us, we balanced out because for every two times that I suggested we do something, he said yes to one. It was like, okay, okay, okay. And it was this little push and pull. And he finally said to me, he's like, you're going to burn out. You got to stop. You got to slow
Yeah.
down. And my husband and most of his family are the same. They don't we don't really talk about feelings. We don't talk a lot about her or her passing. And so, um, and I'm like you, I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it all the time. And I want to, and I knew it wasn't appropriate, but I wanted to look at a 9-year-old and be like, how are you feeling today? And it's like, no, that's not how you talk to a 9-year-old. But,
Yeah.
it just, yeah, I understand. I understand, and I can see the differences in the experience. It's all kind of the before to the after. It was like, I couldn't do anything to stop her passing. So then I was trying to make up for that afterwards to a degree that my husband would say was a little unhealthy. So, yeah.
But and I would add to that, you bring up a really good point. And if this offers any sort of help for your listeners, support is major after the death of someone. Regardless of how it happens, there's a lot of I'll call it pomp and circumstance that happens with, you have the all of the rituals and the ceremonies, and that really does help bring closure for everyone. But when everyone throws themselves at those opportunities, they come to the viewings, they come to the funerals, they come and they show up for that. But when that stops, that's when the void starts. That's when you feel the loneliness. That's when everyone else gets to get back to their life and their routines, and you're left with what just happened, and you're left without that person. And that's when we needed people the most. So just it's very interesting that that's when you felt the need to go and be and
Yeah.
support, and that's really when they
Right.
do
I
need
know.
it. So in
in
a
a
healthy
balanced
dose,
way
not to
for
the
all
point
of
where
us. Like they, we're in New Jersey, they're in
yeah,
Manhattan, so it took everything for me to just not like just get in the car, and a lot of times I did,
oh
and
yeah.
it was just like ding dong, like, hey, you want lunch? Great, and I think we can all laugh about it now, but it was a little intense anyway. Um, is there anything, kind of like tying it all back together here, is there anything that you really want to reiterate or just drive home for any maternal figures listening? We talked about a lot today, and again, I really appreciate your vulnerability and talking about your personal story, but bringing it back to your passion and what you love. What do you want people to know? What do you want to drive home for the maternal figures listening?
If your day-to-day life is not serving you, there are ways to change it. You don't have to be this selfless person that had, did all of this work to potentially grow a baby or adopt a baby or have a baby through surrogacy. Like, whatever your maternal journey is, it doesn't mean once that happens, you now put yourself on the back burner. You have one life to live, and it's for you. And by putting yourself in the front, you are going to live such a full, authentic life that just feels so good for you. And that's going to permeate into all aspects of your life. That's when you feel good, the happiness just seeps off of you. Others can feel it, they see it. That's when we're our best selves, for our family, for everyone. There are other ways of doing it. So, for example, going back to that, coffee scenario, if you are reheating your coffee 12 times and looking for other people to validate that, yes, they're doing it too, that routine is not serving you. It's not working. If you value your cup of coffee and you want to drink it and enjoy it in peace, then maybe wake up at 5 a.m. Change your routine if it's not working. It doesn't have to be the way that society tells us it's going to be. Take that super mom off the pedestal and put yourself up there, because it's possible with coaching. If you're ready and you want to make changes and aren't really sure where to start, then hire a coach. There are people that really offer amazing services. I had no idea life coaching existed until, these past few years, and it's made such a difference for me. I've made changes that I didn't realize I needed to change, or, things that weren't serving me. So I just highly suggest challenging your thoughts, challenging your daily routines, find those pain points, because
Mm-hmm.
there are
Yeah.
other ways of
Boom.
living.
I think, yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. It was absolutely spot on. And, Shanna, thank you so much for your time and again for your vulnerability and sharing. And I will, of course, link all of your websites and contact information in the show notes for anyone that might be interested in learning more about you or working with you. And it sounds like you've got some cool stuff going on social media. This challenge, I'm anxious to check that out. So again, thank you so much for your time. This was great.
Thanks so much for having me. This was so much fun.
Boom, right? Oh, I just love how Shanna ended that for us, and I'll restate it because it's so important. If your day-to-day life is not serving you, there are ways to change it. This is true, and I know it because of my own life. And although there are still so many things that I want to change, I have made changes. Unfortunately, I have made it such that I will make myself sick over it before I make the change, but it's reminding me of the episode with Heather Chauvin where we talk about the whisper and the buildup of finally saying, okay, enough, it's time. And what Shanna offers is a roadmap. Let her and the other women in her group be your guides to making change in your life. And I think it's important to note here that by seeking help, it doesn't mean you are saying that your life is horrible and you hate everything. It just means something isn't feeling right. And I want to thank Shanna for so openly sharing the story of her brother-in-law's suicide. We did talk through the differences between her experience and my experience with losing my sister-in-law, but it felt like a hug getting to talk to her because we also talked through the similarities. Loss hits differently for everyone, and you heard us both express how we felt like because we were the in-laws in the situation, that we almost felt out of place or inappropriate for feeling our feelings. And this is a reminder to all of us that none of our feelings are inappropriate. We may just need help sorting through them, acknowledging them, processing them, all the things. All right, so check Shanna out. She is going strong still in her 365 self-care challenge on Instagram. I'm following along. She's got great ideas. And if you want more on self-care, I'm offering free, easy, step-by-step, take your pick self-care suggestions. If you go to sass.com/care and sign up for the free 5-day challenge, you will find them there. All right, that's it. Catch you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Sass Says is a production of Luann Nigara, Inc. This podcast is meant to be educational and not meant to replace professional therapy or professional medical attention. To learn more about today's show and what's new in my world, head over to sasssays.com. Thanks so much. Talk later.